When the United States was established, the founding fathers such as John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Alexander Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and George Washington set many ideals for how their country was to be ran. Their ideals, included in the Declaration of Independence and Constitution, were those of democracy, rights, liberty, opportunity, and equality, opportunity being one that is focused on during imperialism and World War I. The open door policy marks a big event in American imperialism. Established in 1899 by John Hay, the United States Secretary of State, the open door policy was made to give countries such as France, Great Britain, Japan, and Russia equal trading rights with China. The spheres of influence and economic control of China eventually led to the Boxer Rebellion. The Boxer Rebellion was an uprising of Chinese peasants to drive the foreigners out of China. Due to the Boxer Rebellion, John Hay eventually rewrote the open door policy to make it more fair to Chinese citizens, utilizing the policy for both opportunity and equality throughout countries. From 1909 to 1913, the dollar diplomacy was put in place by President William Taft and Secretary of State Philander Knox in hopes to provide stability overseas to promote U.S. commercial interest. This caused the U.S. to intervene in places such as the Caribbean and Central America. Taft used tactics such as military reinforcements to forcefully intervene in Central America. When attempting to do this in countries such as Russia and Japan, Taft was met with great amount of resistance. This in turn created hostility between the United States and foreign countries, and Taft's plan to expand American trade opportunities ended up backfiring. Several decades later, in 1898, Cuban citizens began fighting with the Spanish for independence from Spanish imperialism. President William McKinley took this opportunity to intervene in the Cuban-Spanish issues and provide Cuba with the supplies and support needed to win the war. On February 15, 1898, an American naval ship docked in Havana was bombed by Spanish troops, marking the beginning of America's direct involvement in the war. On April 25, 1898, America declared war on Spain. Their battle lasted 4 long months before a peace treaty was signed on August 12, forcing Spain to cede sovereignty over many Pacific islands as well as Cuba. 4 months later, the Treaty of Paris was signed, officially marking the end of the Spanish-American War and granting Cuba their independence. America's involvement in the war brought equality and democracy to Cuba. As well as the Spanish-American War, America is also involved in the annexation of Hawaii during the late 1890s. In 1893, a group of Hawaiian planters and businessmen led a coup against the Queen to establish a new democratic form of government. When Hawaii asked President at the time, Grover Cleveland, to annex them, he denied their request. But 5 years later, William McKinley accepted their request to become annexed. On August 12, 1898, Hawaii became a territory of America. Not only does Hawaii bring many opportunities to America, but it also protects U.S. interests in the Pacific Islands. After America annexed Hawaii, they were faced with the issue of building a canal in Central America. Countries such as France and Britain had tried before and failed, losing many workers to outbreaks of diseases while the canal was being built. Secretary of State John Hay tried to sign an agreement with Colombia in 1902 to build a canal through Panama, but Colombia denied the request. In turn, President Roosevelt responded by sending warships to Panama to support their fight for independence from Colombia. Panama eventually defeated the Colombian troops, gained their independence on November 3, 1903, and gave the U.S. the ability to build the Panama Canal. This opened up many economic opportunities for the U.S. and Central America alike. World War I began with little direct contribution from America. America was on the Allied side, along with France, Great Britain, and Russia. The Central Powers consisted of the Ottoman Empire, Bulgaria, Austria-Hungary, and Germany. There were many causes for World War I, one of which being the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Another is Germany and Austria-Hungary's desire to create booming economies such as Britain and France's through imperialism. Before 1917, the U.S. stayed isolated and neutral during the war, only sending supplies and support to their allies and not directly contributing to the fight. The U.S. had many reasons to join the war, one of which being our industrial power. Another reason would be the sinking of the U.S. ship the RS Lusitania, which enraged U.S. citizens. The final tipping point for the U.S. to join the war was a secret Zimmerman telegram from Germany to Mexico, asking Mexico to become a German ally. In April 1917, President Woodrow Wilson declared the United States' direct involvement in the war, saying they were joining the Allies to fight for peace and democracy. On January 8, 1918, President Wilson made his 14-point speech, which promoted peace upon nations and economic liberty across the world. In November 1918, the Allies and Germany signed an armistice, signifying the end of the war on November 11th. In January of 1919, the Big Four, America, England, France, and Italy, began to negotiate plans for the future. They eventually came up with the Treaty of Versailles, which placed blame for World War I on Germany and outlined the idea of the League of Nations, which became a failed version of the UN. Although Woodrow Wilson was for the treaty, the U.S. Congress eventually rejected it, but America's involvement in World War I gave America many economic opportunities nonetheless.